No.
Yes, we start again.
Yeah.
Fifth paragraph, I say. Fifth paragraph of Yerushalmi Peah, right? We're roughly Daf Memana from the base. So we're talking about cases where things of leket have got mixed up with the stuff of the owner of the field. So Godish and the poor people haven't gathered it yet, and it gets all mixed up. So Godish shall look at tachtam. So the owner of the field, he's gathered various bundles of all the ears, whatever it is, of the crop. He's put it in one place. He makes a mound of it. Shall look at tachtam. And the time when he did it, the Anim hadn't yet come to take their leket. And now that leket is mixed up on the ground under his mound that the Balabais has made. So you've got his mound with their stuff underneath. So Kol Haloshon, anything which belongs to, touching the ground, we don't know for sure that it's not leket, but we say, look, anything touching the ground, he should not have put his mound on top of the leket. He shouldn't have done that. So we're saying, right, anything touching the ground, we don't know for sure if it's leket or not, we give it a din of leket. And arehu shalanim, it's got a din and it goes to the poor. Now, haruach shapizra esayborin, if the wind scatters the bundles on the field where there's leket not yet being gathered, so now it's not his fault, it's because of the wind. And through that, the bundles got mixed up with the leket, which was set aside for the poor. So we're not so severe now. So Eindimaisa, we look and reckon, he doesn't have to leave everything for the aniyim. We look at the field and we say, Kama leket hi ru'uya lasas. How much leket would there normally be? But no, so aniyim, he gives it to the poor. He says, you don't have to look at every field in its own right. No, it's an aniyim kedei nafila. You just give the aniyim the amount based on a fixed amount, which is what the Chachamim say. For leket, the fixed leket, how much it would normally be in a normal field. So there's a sort of normal amount, and that's what you would give. Okay, so that's what they say. So we have two cases. One where he went and intentionally put his mound on top of the leket, and then there's like a knas. And the other case is where the wind has put everything together, so you give a sort of amount. So it says the Gemara, here in the situation where the wind scatters the amorim, we say, we reckon the field, Kama leket, he realizes how much would it normally make, but no salanim, and he gives it to the poor, and that's all he has to give. Now, in the case of the Godish, which was not gathered, we say, it's the first case in the Mishnah, we say, well, anything touching the ground, it belongs to the poor. Even though we are sure some of those things belong to the Balabais, it's not leket. So what's the reason for the difference? So Rav B'Shem Rav Yochanan Knas Konsubai, as we said already, it's a Knas, right? Yeah? The reason is as a Knas because of what he went and did. He put everything on top of the poor, therefore we put a Knas on him. Ad Kadun Mezid, that's all very well if it was intentional. Afilu Shogeg, what about Shogeg as well? Do we do the whole field? So the Gemara says, even b'shogeg, we will put a fine. But afilu krichos, even if his bundles were tied up, and they're not going to get mixed up with the leket, and the poor people can just pick up the bundles and take the leket. There's a knas, and he has to leave all those tied up bundles and leave them for the poor, the ones right with which are there touching the ground. And not only that, afilu chitin or gabisoirin, even if his mound is a different type from the leket. The leket is barley and his stuff is wheat. Or the other way around. There's no opportunity for any mix-up here. It's a different type. There's a knas. Not only that, even if other people went and they put it there without his knowledge, there's a knas on the owner of the field. He called the poor, they never came. He had time to come, they never came. Nevertheless, he should not have put his mound on top of the leket. Okay? So what we're saying, any shiborim that touch the ground, they go to the aniyim because of a knas, right? He's put his gardish on top. Min adin, really, they should have like the sefer. They should have a certain amount, how much would normally fall, right? So if you've got now, therefore, what? But it might be amazing, whatever. Even shogeg, where there's a knas on him. Now,
what? The leket that falls, it's all accidental. So you can't say it's
but there will be a standard. There'll be an average.
Yeah.
Somehow there'll be an average. Now he says what's going to happen is shiborim, which is leket min Torah, if it's proper leket, is part of from Maser. Some things we are giving them a status of leket. We are calling it leket. Not min Torah is not leket, but we are calling it leket. Now they should be chayav with Maser. But the Mishnah seems to say anything touching the ground, got a din leket, no obligation of Maseh. So how is that exempted from Maseh? Now some of this really is not leket min HaTorah at all. Only what was fell naturally is leket, but we're saying anything touching the ground from his Gadish is also leket, is all potter from Maseh. So Rabbi Shem ben Lakish, he said, Beis Shammai, he's the Beis Shammai, Beis Shammai Omrim Hefka Lanim Hefka. When you make something hefka for the poor, even though the Ashirim can't get it, it's got a din of hefka. Only am allowed to take it. Potter from Maestros. So in our Mishnah then, these shibolim which are not lekim and Torah, they're potter from Maser. The Chachamim will mafkir it to the Aniyim because of the Knas. It's got a din of everything of hefka and it's potter from Maser. According to Beis Hillel, hefka doesn't help. You've got to make it hefka for everyone. If you just do it for the poor, it's not hefka. Therefore, they're not lekim and Torah, but it's the Knas. They'll mafkir it to the Aniyim. It won't really have a din of hefka, and according to Beis Hillel, it might be obligated in Maser. But Amalei Rav Yasser said, Shamana, we have a tradition, true potter min Masros. Even if it's not leket min Torah, it's still potter from Masros ledivrei hakol, according to everyone, even Beis Hillel. Mishum kenas, the Chachamim put a fine. Anything touching the ground belongs to the Aniyim. It's got a strength of the Torah. It's got a din of hefka, like from they have the ability to call it hefka min Torah, even though it's only hefka to the poor. Hefka based in hefka, because Beis Hillel hold, usually for the poor or rich is not good enough. That's with an individual, right? But here is the Aniyim through the based in. It's complete hefka, right? And they have a kach to be mafkir to Aniyim, not to everyone. Or benayij hefka based in hefka. Where do we see the based in have this power to completely change the status? See if it says Kol Haloshon, that's Ezra. And the Anshe Knesset Agdala, they called all the people who came back from the exile to gather in Yerushalmi within 3 days to find out who married the wrong women. They should divorce them. They put a knas and anyone doesn't come. If they don't come, everything will be hefka. So we see that based in can be mafkir moment. Menayin shuhu potim and and where do we see that produce which was hefka through the based in is exempt from maestros like other tzibur which was hefka through the owners? Okay. We learn from the following brisa. Now, you can't start adding a month to the year, lo b'shvius, not during the Shemitah year, adding an extra Adar Sheni, but lo b'motzei Shvius, and nor the year after Shemitah. If you did add an extra month, it's effective, right? And you end up with a year of 13 months. Now, by adding an extra month from the based in, by adding an extra month in the Shemitah year, you're telling me that fruit that grows in the extra month is like Shemitah produce and is exempt from Maser, like the rest of the year. Min Torah, you're not meant to start adding a month in this way. So what do we see? That we're based in our mafkir produce, by adding a month, they are causing, based in their mafkir, the fruit which grows in this year, and hefka works to exempt maestros. So that's why he wants to say it's the same idea. They're adding an extra month and there's no maestros on that month. Now that's all very well. Ad kedon, shvius. That's all very well. I understand the Shemitah year. But then motzei shvius my tama. Why can't you add a month motzi shvius, the 8th year? What's wrong with adding a month then? We don't want you to have too long a wait to eat the new grain. Remember, you have to wait till second day Pesach, right, to eat the new grain. And by adding an extra month, it means you're waiting an extra month. Reb Zeira, Shem Rebavo, Adada Tema, that which we said you can't start adding a month in Shemitah, that's actually hit Rebbe Lahavi Yarek, Mechus La'aretz. That's before Rebbe allowed you to bring produce from abroad. Right? Before he allowed you, there was Gezeira, Chutz La'aretz, Matame, Mago Masa. You might have bones coming from abroad, bits of earth stuck to the vegetables. They said, don't bring produce from abroad. We don't want to bring tumah into Eretz Yisrael. So that was before. Then we don't want you to add a month. But when once Rebbe allows you to bring produce from abroad, then it doesn't matter if we add an extra month. It's the same as the other years of the cycle. There's no big problem between Shemitah and the other years. You can add an extra month in Shemitah, because yes, we're lengthening the Issur of working on the land. It's not such a problem because we're bringing produce from abroad. Now, back to the question we brought. Tani Rulan, Aim Abrinis Hashana. So we said, yes, you shouldn't start adding a month in the year, Lo B'Shvius, Lo B'Motzei Shvius, not the Shemitah year or the year 8. Ela B'Shar Shnei Shvius, do it the other years. If you did, Arezum Uberes. If you did it, it's effective. That we said you can't add a year in Motzei Shvius, that's in the old days. Shoheo Hashonim Kesidran. The years were normal. The winter, everything ripened in its proper time. And you would end up having the Omer offering, which allowed you to have the new grain, everything in its proper time. Now, the new grain, it doesn't even ripen at the time of the Omer offering. So there's no big deal if we delay the offering of the Omer. Therefore, he might say, there's no difference between Motzei Shvius and the other years. You can be Ma'abah the year if you need to, even Motzei Shvius, because things don't always grow on time. Tani, we've learned Shabbos from Gamliel, Ibruah, but Motzei Shvius, they were Ma'abah the year. In the year after Shvius, after Shemitah, they did add an extra month. Now, some have this gives the here miyad. What does this mean, miyad? There's different ways here. Some want to learn, they leave out the word miyad. The notes here say, sounds like he's not arguing on the Tana of the Brisa, who forbade it. It's the Brisa in its own right to support Rabbana. When things don't grow properly, you can add an extra month. When the Lashon miyad is much for the Beis Din of Gamliel, they added the year, a month, soon as the Shemitah year finished. Tishri or Motzei Shvius. Soon as that, they would do it right away. Others learn this Lashon here, miyad, they change it to Midr of Ovon. It's learned from Rav Ovon, who said the reason why you can't do it in Shemitah because you're delaying Chadash. Okay, you're delaying the new grain. Or Midr Bavahu, who allowed you to do it Motzei Shvius after Rebbe brought the vegetables from abroad. So it's because he allowed you to bring the vegetables from abroad, so that's how they're learning. It doesn't necessarily mean miyad, but it means midr of ovon, or whatever. Different versions here. Okay. After we explain the brisa, we come back to the first point. So Rabbi Yonasan learns that if you're based in Amma Abba the year during Shemitah, is mulberes. And the fruits of that extra month are hefka, right? And they are potter from maestros. Right? Based in fruit that's hefka through the based in is potter from maestros. Rav Avin said, if you want to learn that, let Adonot Shema Minah Klum. You can't learn a ride from there. When they're Ma'abah the year, it's not hefka through the Beis Din, it's through the Torah. The Torah gave the koach to the Beis Din to add an extra month. Because there's Shomar as Chodesh Ha'aviv, right? Pesach has got to be in the spring, when the produce is ripening. And what does it mean? Shomrei Ha'chiyava B'chidushay. Delay the coming of Nisan by adding a month if necessary, so the time of the ripening of the produce will be in Nisan. So don't learn from here, Ibu Hashana or Hefka based in, or it's based in doing this. No, the fruit and the tzvua are Hefka through Ibu, they're potter from Maestros. It's not Hefka based in, it's because the Ibu was given to based in through the Torah, right? And even though the Chatchila, okay, you don't want to start adding an extra month in Shemitah, that's only Drabanan din. Minat Torah, you can have Rishus to be Ma'abah and Shemitah, you can make it longer if you want. Therefore, if they did it, it's definitely effective. Now, so then the Gemara brings a right from our Mishnah that actually Hefka based in wood patter from Maisa. Vaida Amrada, there is a right, okay, what is the Mishnah or Brisa which says this? It's our Mishnah. God is should look at Tachtav. So what have you got? You've got the big grains that the owner of the field touching the ground. He's left his big stack there. There's leket underneath. We say anything touching the ground belongs to the poor. Some of the stuff on the floor is not leket min Torah, but the knas of the chachamim, you have to give everything touching the ground to the aniyim, right? Because the godish was put on top of the leket. And Ramana Shemen Lakish said the Mishnah is the mashma that even stuff which is not leket only because of the knas, it's all potter from Maisa. The Beis Shammai. There's like Beis Shammai who say that something which is hefka only for aniyim is considered hefka. So the stuff which was hefka to aniyim because of this knas is potter from Maser like everything of hefka. The Ika Beis Hillel, according to Beis Hillel, now they hold, if you make it hefka for the poor, that's not good enough, right? It's not considered hefka. Aniyim ma'asrin ma'echlin. According to Beis Hillel, the poor, yeah, they can eat it, but they have to take Maser first. After that, they can eat it. And on this, Rabbi Yasser says, Shamanu, we have a tradition, true Potter b'Maisrus, the stuff touching the ground is Potter for Maisrus, Divrei HaKol. Even Beis Hillel would agree, Mishum Knas, that everything is Potter for Maisrus. Now, even though Beis Hillel hold Hefka, that an individual makes Hefka for Aniyim is not Hefka, but he agrees that the Beis Din make it for Aniyim is Hefka. Therefore, the Shibolim that are Hefka for Aniyim because the class are Potter from Maser. So he says, we want to learn from this Mishnah based on Rabbi Yasser that produce which was Hefka through the Beis Din is Potter for Maser. So that's what he's saying. So what was it going on? It was going on this. We wanted to, in the end, we said, well, actually, the Torah said they can add an extra month because everything has to be in the spring, right? But before that, why was there discussion? This is the piece that we referred to before. Because you see there's a discussion, is it Hefka? Is it yes Hefka? Is it no Hefka? And then he said it could be even Beis Hillel agree it's Hefka because of Knas, the Hefka based in, and they can make it Hefka. What? It didn't grow. You have to make it Knas. Oh, no, Ibel, because you want the new produce to be in the spring. Yeah, Ibel, yeah, the Chodosh to be in the new time. Kedei Fila. So what do we say? Now we said in our Mishnah, if, however, the wind scatters the Omerim on top of an area where the leket is there, the poor people have not collected it. It's not you put your stack on top of it, you put your stuff elsewhere. And the wind went and blew it all the way on top of the leket. So in such a case, we look at the amount, how much would leket normally be, and you give that share to the aniyim. The share of leket normally to fall is abas kabed lebkur, 4 kav to a core, which is roughly 1/45. Okay, that's the amount of leket you would expect to fall. So that's how much it would be. All right, it's 4 kav of the kabim of garine tevua, of the seeds of the grains, or of the seeds of the produce, not the actual produce. It's 4 kav of the grains. Now, Rav Zeira by Kurabavo, Abbas kabin lekur or lebeis kur. Doesn't mean 4 kav to every core of that which is cut, or 4 kav to the whole base core, which is a share of an area where you sow a core, which is of course 75,000 square amas. Right, so 4 kav of what you would sow in every core, which is what you would sow in 75,000 square amas, as opposed to a core which is a volume. That's what he wants to say. It's a different measure. Does he mean the shares, a volume of tvua, where you fall 4 kav of leket from every core, well, 1/45, or maybe based on the area, where 4 kav of leket will fall in a field where a base core grows, where a core of seed has been sown. According to Bavli, a core of zera makes produce of 7.5 core for tvua. So the share of 4 kav to a leket to a base core is a share of 4 kav for every 7.5 core, right? Which is 1350 kav, which is a ratio of 1/337.5. Okay, that's how much it will be. According to the Gaon's Gersa, a core of zera makes 45 core, which is 8,100 kav. So 4 kav to a base core would be roughly 1/2025. Okay, right, let's carry on. Amale, he said to him, the base core is to a share of a base core. Okay, Taman Tanina. Now, in the Mishnah elsewhere, Bometzia, now this is about someone who takes over a field to work as a sharecropper. Okay, he'll get his share from the produce, and the produce only produced a little bit. It's not worth his while, so he doesn't want to carry on. So according to Tanakama, you have to deal with it if there's enough produce to have a kri, like a big pile over there that you could put your stick into, your winnowing fork into, and it will stand. Oh, review that. Markets for kri. What is the size of this shear to hold a kri? How much is that? Is there a share for that? Big field, small field? I mean, how much work is there compared to a small field? If there's enough kedei nefila that the oris has to carry on working. And on this, how much is that? What is that share? There's enough in the produce, he can sow this field next year. So if that's the fact, kedei nefila is really, it means how much you will be able to sow next year. Now here, Rabbi gives a different share, right? We're not saying they're enough to sow next year. We're saying 4.5 kor, whatever it is. So the Mishnah seems to use, is it the same expression? Are they two different shiurim here? This is a different expression, but is it the same? Is it different? Very good question. We have no answer. Okay, let's carry on. Shibayles Shabakatse. Rabbi Sai, you've got, this is interesting sugya now. Now, Shibayles Shabakatse. Now, according to most people, we're talking here about shikha. Okay? We're not, the Rambam wants to learn, we're talking about leket. But everyone else says we're talking about shikha. So you've got one ear of shibayles, one ear of corn, whatever it is, standing on its own, yeah? Near the field, around it has already been cut. Now there's still grain still growing, just slightly further away. So you've got a big pile of stuff still growing, there's a little space, and then you've got this shibayles here on its own. Now it's on its own and it was forgotten, but it's next to this big amount which has not been cut yet, right? It can't be, it's not shikha if it's not been cut yet. So this shibayles on its own, it wasn't cut. And V'roisha magia lakoma, but it's very close to that standing produce which has not yet been cut. And this top of this singular shibayles, if you stand it up and you bend it, you can bend it over to the comma, to that which is still growing. So it's near enough to still bend over and touch the comma which hasn't been cut yet. So the din is, in nixeresim comma, if you can gather it together with the comma, together with the mound that's not been cut yet, if you can gather this one with that and cut them in one action, then harehi shabalabais, then it belongs to the owner and it's not considered shikha. You hear that? Because next to the big mound, it can be part of the big mound and it's not shikha yet. V'im lav, but if it's a bit further away and it doesn't reach, and you can't cut it together, harehi shalaniyim, then it goes to the poor. All right. So if it's near enough that you can cut it together with the comma, the lashon they use, the comma is matzil, the shikha. It saves this piece from being called shikha because it's near enough. You can cut it all together. Okay. Now, yeah, the Rambam wants to learn. We're talking about leket. Now, you don't usually find leket which has not yet been cut. Right. Leket is usually. Leket is usually memchuba, or what's it? Which way around? Derechla, the Torah uses leket for things which have been cut, right? Whether now this is talking about something which hasn't been cut yet, right? So that's one of the questions.
So that's what they're calling the shikha.
We're calling it shikha. The Rambam's talking about leket here. Yeah, but the Rambam gives it a din of leket. Talks about leket in our sugya. Well, how that reacts to what the mound is next to, that's the whole discussion. Which psukim we're using. All right, let's carry on. Now, shibayles shel leket. So you've got this shibayles of leket, and another piece of corn, whatever it is, standing of leket, which belongs to the poor. So it's fallen off. It belongs to the poor. Shenis ava begodish, which got mixed up with the mound of the balasodeh before the onis come along. And now we don't know which one it is. So this is a different case, right? So one of the leket pieces, which the poor people should pick up, never got picked up. And it's got mixed up with the mound of the balabais. So he should give them therefore an equivalent. He has to give them one shibayles instead. So now before he gives it back to them, he has to take maaser on it. Maaser shibayles v'noisemai. He has to be maaser it and then give for the one that got mixed up. How can the poor person, what zechus does the ani have on what he receives to change the leket which he never got to get another one? He never picked up this leket, right? This poor man never picked it up. And now we're swapping it for another one, but he never picked it up. If he acquired it before he got mixed up, fair enough, you swap it for another one. But this ani never got it before he got mixed up. It's not his to start swapping it for another one. When the owner of the field gives him another one, he's not really acquiring instead of it the one that got lost. So what zechus does he have to hold on to it? Okay? And leket, is often part of a maaser, but we're saying only the owner has to separate maaser in this case. Ella, he says, you know what? If you want to swap it and then give it to the poor person, what should the balabais do? He says, Mezake es ani b'chala kaddish. Give over acquisition of the whole mound to the ani, the whole thing. And that way he will acquire that one shiboides which is mixed with it. Then the owner of the field brings out one shiboides out of the stock, and he takes master on it, and he gives it to the poor person for that shiboides laket that got mixed up. So this way, the ani, you hear that, he's acquired the whole thing, and now you take out one, give it to that, and obviously the ani gives everything back to the owner, and you take out one, this is one of yours, Mr. Ani, we'll swap this one for the one that got lost, I'll take master on it first, and here it is. Okay? So we're going to discuss, the Gemara's going to discuss what's this about, giving it to the ani, how much does the ani have to take? Does he have to take all of it? You take one part of it? Is that good enough? Let's see. So usually the first din, by the way, we had, if you have something which wasn't forgotten, and it's close to something which has been forgotten, it can save it, as we said. It can stop it being a din of shikha. So now, Ezohi comma. What is a comma where we're saying she matzeles is a comma? It can save something nearby and stop it being called shikha. Like we've learned, you have one stalk in an area which has been cut. But Rosha Magela comma, and the top of it reaches over and touches the comma which has not yet been cut. And we said that's good enough, and therefore it stops it. It goes to the balabais. If it can't reach, then it goes to the poor. Providing that the cut area is surrounding it from all sides. You follow? It's not right next to a comma, otherwise it's part of the comma. It's on its own. It's been emptied around. There's an empty area. But if it can reach, then it's part of the comma, and that stops it from being shikha. So providing you can cut it together with the comma, right? If it's so close, it can bend over and touch it. It can be cut with a comma. Owned by the owner of the field. So now, right, you with me? Now, what about if this head of this shiboides, which is forgotten, reaches the comma? We said if it can get cut with the comma, it belongs to the owner of the field. Now, what does it mean being cut with the comma, with that which is growing? If it could be cut with the comma, and the comma can't be cut with it, nitzoles. So that's also good enough. And that also saves it. So you know what that means? If this stalk can bend over to the comma, to that which is growing, that which is growing is not long enough to bend over to this stalk. What's the din? That's fine. Even if the comma can't reach, but this stalk can reach, that's good enough. And therefore that's got a din, Rabbi say, of, a din of, is not going to be shikha, and it goes to the balabais. Okay? Hayushtaim. Now what happens? You have two stalks standing in a cut area. One can reach the comma next to it, but the one further away can't reach. What do you say now? Happening is the inner one which can reach the comma. Comma can be cut with the comma, and therefore it's not shikha. The one further away, if that's close to the nearer one, they're very close. The outer one is next to the inner one. Now the outer one is far away from the comma. That doesn't reach. But the inner one does. The inner one is saved, and it saves the outer one as well. Because it's secondary to the comma, it can be metzaref, the outer one as well. Therefore, neither of them will be shikha. You hear that, Rabbi? Is that clear? Rabbi Shia. Rabbi Shia said, now, once I was busy cutting the olives in Reb Chia HaGadol, Reb Chia the Great. And he said a point about cutting the olives. He says, Kol Zais. So any olives, you can reach your hand and take it. You've finished gathering the olives, let's say, of one tree. You're turning to another tree. Any olives you left on the first tree, but if you can reach them, that's not shikha. Rabbi Yochanan said, no. You passed away, you forgot it. I don't care, you can reach. He says it's still Harez or Shikha. He says it is Shikha. Because the fact is you've gone away. Now, Masnisa Pliga al Rav Oshia. So Rav Oshia was the one who said, look, if you can reach, then it's not Shikha. So we're going to seem to say that we seem to argue with him. Because it says, what was our Mishnah? Shiboiles shebekotzi, you have one stalk here. But Roisha Magia Lakom, if it reaches the comma, then the din is, then it's not Shikha. If it doesn't reach, then it is Shikha. But Shiboiles shebekotzi, now this one stalk, can you not reach your hand and get it? Of course you can. So what should be a problem? If it's so close that you can cut it together, then you can definitely reach your hand and get it. Why does the Mishnah say it has to be cut with the comma? As long as you reach your hand should be enough. So what do we see? The even sign you can reach can still be shikha. I don't care you can reach it. It still can be shikha. It has to actually bend over and touch. So Rabbi Osha will answer, Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Osha, Ba'ayman Hashenu Shanu. Now, our Mishnah is talking about a case where that comma, now remember, you've got your single stalk and you've got your crop which is still growing. So he says, we're talking about a case where the comma is in one row and not in the same row where this shiboilis has been forgotten. The forgotten one is at an angle, maybe. It's in the next row, not in the same row as the comma. So Rav Oshia's din was where you are nearby, in the same row, or if you can reach it, in the same row, then, even though you've moved away, you can go back. As long as you can reach it, that's fine. Once you go, however, to a different row, which is considered separate, then it's got a din shikha, even if you can reach round to the first row. And our Mishnah is talking about a case where you've already turned to a second row. And any row is considered a kasira in its own right. Therefore, even if you can now reach that shiboiles, it's shikha, unless the comma in the second row will save it from shikha. And that saving was not said unless you've got the various conditions. So he wants to make a distinction as between if it's the same row or second row. And if it's the second row, then I'm afraid the fact that it reaches, he says once you can turn round doesn't help you for a second row.
But they say there about olives. Now, olives aren't cut the same way as wheat.
Olives,
Normally olives, you put a mat on the floor. And
you're cutting them off the tree.
You generally shake the tree because you don't want to damage the tree. Look, olive trees, they try not to cause damage to the tree. So normally it falls on a net. And then
right. Well, over here, what are you doing? You
seem to be cutting
them. Yeah, maybe it's a little lower down. I don't know. Dava Shuvroi, how are we doing? Dava Shuvroi lehatzil ushachai. Right, okay. Now a question about a shiboiles which has been forgotten, and it was saved because it was next to a growing comma, right? Dava Shuvroi lehatzil ushachai. So it was forgotten, but there was no din shikha because it was next to a growing area. After that, when you cut that growing area, you forgot to cut that shiboiles which was forgot before. You hear that? So it was saved, then you cut the comma, and again you forgot to cut that other one. Mal shiyasa shikha. Do we now say it's becoming shikha because now it's got forgotten again? There's no comma left here to save it anymore. Or do we say, no, since it was not done, it wasn't shikha from the beginning, when it was roy to chala din of shikha, therefore it doesn't become shikha. The beginning of shikha can be the din of shikha, but if it wasn't chal then, maybe it's not shikha now. Nishmi'ina minata. We learn from the following, from Rabbi Bun. Let's see. Now he's talking about forgetting bundles, omerim, like bundles. Now we find a brisa. There's two gisais, and he says like this: Now you're gathering together bundles. First bundle, second bundle, third bundle, first one, second one, third one, fourth one. So let's say you did the first, the second, and third from a row of bundles in order to take them to the Cohen, to the granary. You forgot the fourth one, and then you went to number 5. Some learn, if you take the fifth one, then the fourth one becomes shikha now. You've gone past it. But if you've not yet taken the fifth one, although you took a bit of a while thinking about it and you've jumped the fourth, but you've not yet taken the fifth, then some say the fourth one does not become shikha. So some say it depends, did you take the fifth or did you not take the fifth? Some learn, if you spend time to take the fifth, that's it. Even though you didn't take it. If you jumped the fourth and you had time to take the fifth. Even though you've not yet taken the fifth, the fourth is now forgotten. Even though it's not growing on the ground, this is now shikha and forgotten about. He said, look, there's not really two different opinions. Now, the one who said that when you took the fifth, and the fourth one is now shikha after you've taken the fifth, that is b'sheyesh sham shishi, when there was a sixth one in that row. Once you've taken the first three, now think about it like this. If there's 6 in a row, once you've taken the first 3, you still have a row left. 4, 5, 6 is 3. That makes a row. So you've not really forgotten 4 yet, because you've got a whole row in front of you, right? If you have 3 remaining, that is a row in its own right. A whole row cannot become shikha. So when you had 4, 5, and 6 to go ahead of you, that's not shikha, because 4, 5, 6 is a whole row. So if you've not yet taken the fifth one, okay, I've gone against the row, but there's no din shikha on the fourth. It's a chelek of a row. So that's what one wants to say. When do we talk about the fifth, not taking the fifth? That's when you had a sixth there. Therefore, it's a row. So it's not got a din of shikha if you've not yet taken the fifth. The one who said, if you had enough time to take the fifth, that already makes the fourth into shikha, that's where there was no number 6. There was no number 6. There was only 4 and 5. So in this situation, they don't have a din of a row. Taking them is part of the row which you've started. If you jump and miss out 4, even if you've not yet taken 5, I'm afraid if you wait a while, you've taken your mind away from 4, and 4 becomes shikha. So it depends, is there 4, 5, 6, or is there not 4, 5, 6? Is there 4, 5, 6? So you didn't take 4, or you took 5, or you thought about taking 5, but it's still a row, you've not yet lost out on 4. But if there's only 4 and 5, as long as you think about taking 5, and you took a while, that's enough to call for shikha. Now, let's just finish with this. He says, if you, from the moment where you forgot the fourth one, and you went past it, and then you took the fifth, now, at that moment in time, that fourth one was fitting to be part of a row, right? Together with 4, 5, 6. And it wouldn't have had a din of shikha. Nevertheless, we see, once you take number 5, you've cancelled the row. Now you can't save number 4 anymore. So the fourth bundle becomes shikha. Hadava, this tells me, something which was fitting, was shachai, but to be saved, and then you forgot it, yeah, it might be saved at one moment in time, because of the situation at that time. But once that Hatzalah has fallen away, then I'm afraid the shikha comes back. It becomes shikha. Okay? So that's what we see from here. Yes, you could have saved 4, 5, 6, because you had 4, 5, 6 ahead of you. But once you've taken 5, you've lost out on the 4. So back to the original question. We had the single piece. We had the comma. Yes, the comma was saving that single one. But now the comma's been cut. Now the single one's on its own. It can become shikha once again if you forget it. So we continued, Rabbi Isai. Right.